So EC3 has returned to TNA Wrestling. Now, I don't really watch a ton of TNA. I saw this clip and I thought I'd make a video about it. Of course, EC3, in my opinion, is a bit of a TNA legend. You know, he's a former two-time World Heavyweight Champion, but now in 2026, granted, he is a bit past it. His matches probably aren't as good. His promos are still going to be pretty good because that's EC3. He's had such an interesting career, in my opinion, from starting in WWE. Well, not starting in WWE, but first breaking out in WWE on the original NXT show to getting released to joining TNA, having a great run initially in TNA over a number of years, then leaving TNA when they just really were broke pocket and had no money for nothing. And again, at that point, EC3 was one of TNA's bigger stars. Let's have it right. It was TNA's one of the biggest stars during a period when TNA were awful. They were awful and had no money, no production value, no long-term storytelling, awful pay-per-views. Or if they were even running pay-per-views at all, awful pay-per-views, losing money left, right, and centre, losing stars, awful. This was the TNA is dead era. Unfortunately, that was when EC3 was the biggest star in the company, and you can tell the likes of guys that have come after EC3 and really become prominent, the likes of Ethan Page, MJF, definitely saw what EC3 was doing and took a leaf out of his book in terms of being a real old school heel, and just living that gimmick and dressing nicely and just feeling like you're better than the guys in the audience. Now, a few guys have done that. Ric Flair, of course, historically, Chris Jericho done it, but different. Each guy puts a different spin on it, and EC3 was a guy who definitely put a different spin on it. And again, blasphemous to even have EC3 in the same sentence as the likes of Chris Jericho and Ric Flair, but that's pure. I'm purely talking about the character there. I'm not talking about, career or match quality or promo quality or status in the business. I'm purely talking about character here. And EC3 was a guy who definitely, during that period when he was one of TNA's biggest stars, was one of my favourite guys to watch on TNA. And during a period when, in TNA, there was next to no must-see television on that channel or on that program, he was one of the guys who you at least wanted to check in on, what's he doing this week. And even if it was just a promo from EC3, during that period, you'd watch it because he's a good promo, and there's pretty much nothing else going on in TNA that's of interest. Of course, he had a good storyline with Matt Hardy over the World Championship. I liked that. That was good. Again, this was knee deep in the TNA is dead era, but an era, funny enough, during the TNA is dead era, I was watching it pretty consistently at that point. But yeah. EC3's back in TNA. Of course, after he left TNA, he had a run in NWA and on the Indies. NWA was a pretty good run for him, in my opinion. I think he became world's champion at least once. Of course, was working with Billy Corgan, who, of course, he did have a bit of crossover with in TNA and likely had a good relationship with. And it seems like, for the most part, most of the guys that worked with Billy Corgan in TNA have got good relationships with him. And even the guys in NWA now, no one really has a bad word to say about him in terms of wrestlers, right? But it seems like Billy Corgan's most of his issues in TNA came from the financial aspect, the top office, the head office management side of it, and that aspect, and not being paid for things, and all these things, right? All external things. Then Billy Corgan went on to start the NWA, and then took loads of TNA talent. I don't want to say took. TNA wasn't able to renew these guys' contracts because TNA had no damn money, right? So EC3 joins NWA, is one of their bigger stars for sure, becomes world's champion, etc. As you know, honestly, that match against Matt Cardona was a really good death match, and it was done creatively. It was in a really small arena. I appreciate that. It felt really intimate, really small. I know, again, Billy Corgan's like, well, he's not going to make tons of money off that event because, again, it was a pretty small arena. And those guys went to town, Matt Cardona and EC3. Definitely one of Matt Cardona's better matches on the indie. Obviously, for both guys, one of their better matches of their entire careers, honestly. A great match there for EC3. But he knocked about for a bit, and now he's back in TNA. And again, it's interesting to see because, again, he's a lot older. He probably isn't going to get treated like a top star in TNA, even though arguably maybe he should when you look at the main event scene in TNA. But ultimately, EC3 is not good enough in the ring, in my opinion, to be a main event star in a major company in 2026. He's just, like I said, he's just too old. And even in his prime, he was nothing special in the ring, honestly. Even in his prime, he's nothing special in the ring. But a very big pickup for TNA in terms of guys who are actively available. And I'll be honest, I don't imagine EC3 costing too much in 2026, because if you're not even in NWA, then not respectfully, probably not flush with work, right? If we're being honest. But EC3 is a name in TNA that long-time TNA fans will definitely recognise. And I think they said in the clip when he was making his return that he's not been in TNA for 9 years, which is crazy. So really, the modern TNA fan probably doesn't really know EC3 too much, but the long-term TNA fans will definitely recognise the name, know the name, and be happy that he's back in TNA. Like I said, we don't know how he's going to get treated. Looks like he's going to be feuding with Eric Young. Eric Young, in his own right, a TNA legend, former world champion, multiple-time world champion. So, granted, he's going to get treated decently well, but I want to see if EC3 potentially is going to get another world title run. I think that's unlikely in 2026, but it's wrestling and stranger things have happened. EC3's back in TNA. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you think that he's back for another world title run, or is he just back to put some young guys over, get a nice paycheck? There's nothing wrong with that as well. It's a business. It's the game. We all know how it is. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Another episode of the Seth Solo Side Quest in the bag, and I'm out. Peace.